Hello, it's Victor Sanjeff, aka Victory, and today I'd like to talk about dehumanization. And I'm just going to read from my journal what I've written on dehumanization and what I've researched about on dehumanization. Dehumanization is a psychological tool systematically and deliberately used by psychopathic leaders to guide a group of people to see another group of people or single person as being less than human. Dehumanization is behind every great genocide we've ever had. I'm actually a child of war. I was born in the Balkans in 1991 and lived there until 1998 throughout the worst ethnic genocide since Hitler's time. There were 150,000 murdered victims. So like I said, I'm a child of war. I was born during a genocide and I witnessed what it's like to live throughout a genocide. And I was also dehumanized by a psychopath, my ex-sister-in-law. So I felt personally, I was raised around dehumanization and I was dehumanized personally by a psychopath. So I have experience with it in two ways. Dehumanization is when you degrade, belittle, and demean an ethnic, cultural, or social group or person. The group being conditioned to hate and dehumanize the psychopath's target group crosses a certain psychological barrier where their conscience is at a pause towards the target group. The psychopath's group no longer feels remorse or guilt when they hurt or do something bad towards the dehumanized group, regardless of whether they have consciences and are normally morally bound ethical people or are conscienceless, like the psychopathic leader himself. Psychopaths feel no remorse or guilt and have no conscience. Now, and this is very important, there is a phenomenon in psychology where ethical people suppress their conscience temporarily, and this is when they're deprived of their basic needs, such as sleep, food, water, or breath. You see this when someone is drowning and can't swim, and they grab someone else to stay afloat. They don't care about the other person, they're just trying to survive. And in the heat of the moment, they'll do anything they need to stay alive, even drown somebody else. I believe that this phenomenon and dehumanization are connected, and that the dehumanizing psychopathic leader makes their own subjects fear for the loss of their basic needs, or occasionally flexes their power by temporarily depriving them of their needs to show their followers who's boss. Their most basic need being life. The psychopath is the one leading the dehumanization and attack, but they are not the only ones that can pause their conscience, remorse, and guilt. The dehumanizing psychopath's followers can temporarily pause these vital elements of humanity, likewise, through psychology, persuasion, and pressure by the psychopathic leader. Pause of conscience is not just for the psychopath. Any normal person or group can be conditioned to dehumanize another person or group by a psychopathic leader. Once a group is dehumanized, in your mind, there's no remorse, guilt, or conscience towards that group, towards those people. You don't have to be a psychopath. African people, because they are people, were dehumanized by European scientists, saying that their brains were physically smaller than the white man's brain, which is synthetic, gaslighted, scientific evidence. It is synthetic, gaslighted, scientific evidence. It is not true. And this was their excuse for slavery, segregation, apartheid, racism, and the repercussions of this dehumanization is still felt and reverberates in contemporary times. Isn't that true? The Jews were dehumanized by the Catholic Church and further dehumanized by Stalin and Hitler in their speeches, and this synthetic gaslighted evidence was their excuse for genociding millions of normal people. The witch hunt in Old Salem is another example of dehumanization. The situation the victims were in was like a double-edged sword. No matter what they said, guilty or not, they were already witches in the mob's mind and would die either way. They didn't care about people. Rapists, otherwise known as skinners, and snitches also get dehumanized in jail and are made to suffer and usually get killed. Just look at Whitey Bulger. And Whitey Bulger is an interesting case because he's a psychopath and he believes in the gangster code, or he said he believed in the gangster code, Omerta, where the code of silence, where you don't snitch. But he didn't honor that code. He had a double standard where he enforced it towards his followers to protect himself. But when it came to following it himself, he only did it when it was convenient for him. Double standard on the snitches get stitches rule, where the psychopath only follows it when it's convenient for him. But if he wants to save his ass and throw his followers underneath the bus, then he doesn't enforce it. Then he or she, they break their own code whenever it's convenient for them. Dehumanization is used by terrorist leaders to justify attacks where thousands of innocent people die. Dehumanization is used as a tool by the psychopathic leader to make the world jump. Just look at September 11, 2001. Dehumanization is used as a tool by the psychopathic leader to get a reaction on a large and global scale. Dehumanization is used as a tool by the psychopathic leader to rally a nation to murder thousands or millions of people just for sport, because the psychopath can and because their bloodlust meets the right conditions. My ex-sister-in-law and Hitler are very similar. The only thing that's missing is that Hitler had the right opportunity, the right gender, the right time, the right government climate, the right education, the right country, and that he read the right books. Not every psychopath is Hitler, but if they had the opportunities and conditions that Hitler had, they would be. Any psychopath with the right conditions would be like Hitler. They would want to make the world jump. They would want to genocide and murder thousands or millions of people just because they can, just for the thrill of it, just for the sport of it, just to make the world jump, just to get a reaction. That's what they live for. That is dehumanization, the systematic and deliberate tool of the psychopathic leader to murder for sport thousands or millions of people and to make the world jump. Terrorists do this. The evil people who justified slavery did this. The Catholic Church did this to the Jews. The Crusaders did this to the Muslims. The accusers in the Old Salem witch trials did this to their victims. And that is dehumanization. This is Victor Sanjeff signing out. Stay tuned, stay posted, and I'll keep these videos coming.